Hi, my name is Miss Coleman. Today we are going to be reading two texts and answering some questions on those texts. We call these texts paired text, as you see here. And those are two texts that are somehow related. They are RL text, which means reading literature. Okay, this is literature, this is not informational. So today we are going to focus on our RL standards, our reading literature standards. So I'm going to take you through the process of decoding your questions and then reading and annotating your text as we go. You should have your packet, and you should be on page 57 of your packet, and you will see passage 1 from Bridge to Terabithia. Passage 2 is The Secret Garden. We are going to begin by going down to our questions. We have questions, and some of them are part A and part B. So really we have about 7 questions. So before we ever get started reading, we want to define our purpose for reading. We want to look at these questions and determine what are we looking for as we read. So I would go to number 1. And as you go to number 1, it's on page 59. It says, choose the sentence from passage 1 that helps explain why Jess changed his mind about the forest. So on your paper, if you have notebook paper, you would be writing this down. And if you have your packet, you can either highlight or circle, underline, draw an arrow, however you see fit to do that. But passage 1 is very important. Choose the sentence from passage 1. That lets us know that we're not going to be looking at passage 2 for this question. It's only passage 1. And we want to know why Jess changes his mind in the forest. We want to know which one of these phrases explains how we know he changed his mind. What did he change his mind from? How did he feel, and how does he feel now? So as we read, we are going to determine that. Let's go down to number 2. The first thing we notice is this is a part A, part B. You want to make sure that you note that. Write that down or highlight that. This is a part A, part B question. That part B has got to be linked to that part A. Let's look at part A. What is the theme of passage 1? Okay, so there again, we are in passage 1. We're only worried about passage 1 right now, which is Bridge to Terabithia. And it's asking, what is the theme? The theme is going to be our academic word, okay? We know that the theme is a moral or a lesson that people can learn in the story. It's not a lesson that just the character learns. It's a lesson that we can take from the story as people. Part B says, how do Jess and Leslie's actions support the theme from part A? So we want to know how Jess and Leslie's actions support that theme. Whatever we choose as the theme, we're going to have support from that, okay? Let's go down to number 3. We notice that it is also part A, part B. Let's look at part A. In passage 2, what does the author mean by saying the roses were like little trees? And it gives you the paragraph. So I would make sure to note that it's from paragraph 11, and it's also from passage 2, The Secret Garden. So this one's from the second passage. You don't have to look at both of the passages on this one. You only look at passage 2. So it says roses were like little trees. Well, we know, according to our 4th standard, RL 5.4, figurative language, that is a simile. Roses were like little trees, okay? So we want to know, what does the author mean when he says that? It's not enough to just know that it's a simile, okay? We know it's a simile. We learned that a long time ago. We need to know the meaning of that simile, okay? The roses were like little trees. All right, let's look at part B. Remember, your part B must be connected to your part A. Why is this description of roses important? Okay, Why? It's asking you a why question. These are very important questions, and it has to be connected to part A, okay? So not only do you have to know it's a simile, you have to know what the simile means and why it's important in the passage, okay? Go to number 4. What is the importance of paragraph 11 in the passage? So paragraph 11, and we're still in passage 2, okay? We're still in passage 2. We're looking at paragraph 11. What is the importance of that? So I would make sure to put a note or draw a line under paragraph 11 and under importance. We want to know what is the importance. Number 5, why does the narrator show Mary talking to herself? So there's a dialogue, but not between two people. It's more like a monologue, okay? She's talking to herself. Why does the narrator show that? Why is that important? Why is that monologue important? Remember, mono means one. So if one person is talking amongst themselves, it would be a monologue. Normally in a RL text, we see dialogue, conversation between two people. So understand that this would be a monologue. So it's asking you why does the narrator show this? So what is the purpose of this? Okay, what is the author's purpose in showing Mary talking to herself? All right, we're going to go up and we are going to read Bridge to Terabithia. I'm going to allow you to read The Secret Garden on your own. We are going to read for the purpose of annotating a little bit. I'm going to try to help you annotate this passage and answer just a few questions with the time that we have. And then you will be on your own for the rest of your questions. And there is also an answer key in the packet for if you need help in finding your answers and to check yourself on your answers. In this excerpt from Bridge to Terabithia, a young boy remembers the first time he brought his best friend to a favorite place in the woods. Terabithia was their secret, which was a good thing, for how could Jess have ever explained it to an outsider? Just walking down the hill toward the woods made something warm and liquid steal through his body. The closer he came to the dry creek bed and the crabapple tree rope, the more he could feel the beating of his heart. He grabbed the end of the rope and swung out toward the other bank with a kind of wild exhilaration and landed gently on his feet, taller, stronger, and wiser in that mysterious land. Leslie's favorite place besides the castle stronghold was the pine forest. There the trees grew so thick at the top that the sunshine was veiled. Okay, so what would veiled mean? The sunshine was veiled. The trees were very thick. So you can infer that veiled would mean they were covered. Think about when a lady gets married and she wears a veil over her face. What does it do? It is a covering, okay? So the sunshine was covered by the thick trees. No low bush or grass could grow in that dim light, so the group was carpeted with golden needles. I used to think this place was haunted, Jess had confessed to Leslie the first afternoon he had revved up his courage to bring her there. So as we read, we remember, it asked a question about how Jess felt and how he changed. So right now, as we see, how does Jess feel? He says, I used to think this place was haunted, and he had to get up the courage to bring her there. So that means that he is scared, okay? Oh, but it is, she said. But you don't have to be scared. So Leslie is telling Jess, you don't have to be scared. It's not haunted with evil things. How do you know? Jess says. I can just feel it. Listen. So Jess is trying to comfort. Leslie is trying to comfort Jess in this. Jess is scared, and Leslie's saying, it's not that scary. It's okay. You don't have to be scared. It's not haunted. And then she tells him to listen. At first, he only heard stillness. It was the stillness that had always frightened him before. But this time, it was like the moment after Miss Edmonds finished a song, just after the chords hummed down to silence. Leslie was right. They stood there, not moving, not wanting to swish of dry needles beneath their feet to break the spell. So it shows Jess's character changing. He was frightened, scared, anxious, and then he moves and he says, you know what? Leslie was right. This is not so bad. This is nice, like the ending to a song, very melodic. So the tone changes from mysterious and scary to very calm and melodic. Far away from their former world came the cry of geese heading southward. Leslie took a deep breath. This is not an ordinary place, she whispered. Even the rulers of Terabithia come into it only at times of greatest sorrow or greatest joy. We must strive to keep it sacred. It would not do to disturb the spirits. So she doesn't want to disturb the spirits. So what would sacred mean? Sacred is a word that would mean important, okay? Keep it a secret. Keep it low key. Keep it so no one knows about it, okay? It's very important to them. He nodded, and without speaking, they went back to the creek bank where they shared together a solemn meal of crackers and dry fruit. Okay. We aren't going to read passage 2 right now. I'm going to go and answer a question with you, one that was just linked to passage 1, so that we can go through a question together. Number 1, choose the sentence from passage 1 that helps explain why Jess changed his mind about the forest. So we talked about this as we were reading, and we know that Jess was frightened, and then Jess went to a more calm state. So let's talk about which one of these shows that. Which one of these answer choices shows what we already know, what we inferred about Jess? A, I used to think this place was haunted. Jess had confessed to Leslie the first afternoon he revved up his courage to bring her there. Okay, so that shows how he felt from the beginning. But the question is asking, explain why Jess changed his mind. So it wants to know how he felt later on at the end, not how he felt in the beginning. So that one cannot be our answer. Let's look at B. Oh, but it is, she said. So that's Leslie talking. We're not wanting to know how Leslie felt. We're wanting to know how Jess felt. So that can't be our answer. C. But you don't have to be scared. Again, that's Leslie talking. It cannot be our answer. D. It's not haunted with evil things. That's Leslie still talking. She's talking to Jess, but it doesn't show how Jess feels. E. How do you know? Okay, that's Jess talking, but how do you know? Does that show us how he's feeling? Does that give us any description of how he feels at the moment? No. F. I can just feel it. Feel what? It doesn't give us any description of the feeling. G, listen. That's Leslie telling him to listen. It's nothing about Jess and how he feels. H, at first he heard only stillness. Yes, that's telling something he heard, but it doesn't tell how he feels. And let's look at I. It was the stillness that had always frightened him before, but this time it was like the moment after Miss Edmonds finished a song, just after the chords hummed down to silence. So it tells how Jess felt before, but it also shows how Jess changed. So yes, that would be our answer. It would be I. If you chose I, you got it correct. Let's look at number 2, the theme. We know that a theme is a universal truth. It has to be true for everyone all the time. So when you look at a theme question, you want to ask that question, okay, is it true for everyone all the time? So as you go through A, B, C, and D, I want you to ask that question. Usually 2 of them are not going to be universal truths, and then 2 of them will be, but only 1 will pertain to the story. So as you go through, make sure you use those strategies that we've taught you. Our time is almost up. I have enjoyed this time with you. I will be happy to help with any of your questions. Just contact me. My email is acoleman@pcsd.ms. Parents, feel free to reach out to me. I will be happy to help with anything I can during this unprecedented time. I've enjoyed being with you today, and I hope you enjoy working through this packet. Happy summer!